In every city, millions of conversations happen every day. Promises are made. Most of us hear only the words. But on this particular morning, one woman was about to hear something else entirely. Tonight's story is called The Woman Who Could Hear Lies. Lena Park had spent years listening to people. As a journalist, that was her job. Most conversations were ordinary. Small negotiations, quiet promises, harmless exaggerations. At the table beside her, two men were discussing business, numbers, deadlines, confidence. One of them leaned forward and said, "Everything is completely under control." And that was when Lena heard it. Not the words, something else. A faint whisper threading its way through the air. Lena looked up from her coffee. The whisper wasn't coming from the room. Lena turned in her chair, searching the cafe. The whisper was faint, but it was there. Somewhere between the clatter of cups and the low hum of conversation. She stood, listening carefully. Slowly, she returned to her seat. At the table beside her, the conversation continued. One of the men smiled confidently and said, "You have my word. Everything will go exactly as I promised." And there it was again, the whisper. And in that moment, Lena understood something impossible. She wasn't hearing voices. She was hearing lies. Lena stepped out of the cafe and into the noise of the city. People hurried past, lost in their own conversations. For a moment, the whisper was gone. Then it returned. On every screen, the same politician stood behind a podium, promises about the future, and with every sentence he delivered, Lena heard it again. Then the whispers began to multiply. She turned. All around her, people were talking, friends greeting each other, strangers making excuses, colleagues exchanging polite promises, and threaded through those ordinary conversations, the whispers. The noise grew until it was impossible to separate one voice from another. Lena pressed her hands over her ears, but the whispers didn't stop. By the time Lena reached her apartment, the whispers were gone. The silence felt almost unnatural. For the first time since the cafe, her mind was quiet. She stood by the window, staring out at the city below. In the reflection of the glass, she saw herself looking back. Lena took a slow breath. "I'm fine," she said softly. And then the whisper returned. Because suddenly the pattern made terrible sense. All day she had been hearing lies, but the loudest one had always belonged to her. Her sister had died in that crash, and Lena had blamed the other driver. I'm sorry," Lena whispered to herself. The whispers stopped. The city around her was alive with voices, but Lena no longer heard them as whispers of deceit. The weight she had carried for so long had lifted. For the first time, she felt at peace.